I am saying. I am 31. It's weird because I'm in Emory and we're in the library. So I graduated from Emory 2015. This wasn't a thing. Like, this is new. It's pretty cool. I'm from Jersey. So
I'm also from Jersey.
Yeah, I know, so cool.
Yeah. Jersey transplants in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's weird. You know, like, you wouldn't expect Jersey people to come down south because it's hot here.
Yeah.
But I guess personally what draws me to Atlanta is that it's cheap. Like, Jersey is so expensive now. Like, when I go visit my mom, and she still lives in Jersey, like, their Korean food is on average minimum $15. Like, I think when I went back, like, 2017, like, sundubu was $20. I was shook.
Whoa. Yeah, that's too much.
I was like, sundubu here was $10 back then. Now it's like 13 here. But this was like 5 years ago. I'm like, $20 for sundubu is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's...
Sorry, that's not part of the intro, but sure. I've lived here in Atlanta since 2011. So I've been here for a while. So it's cool to see how the city grew. I am married to Esther. She's still working apparently. So she's kind of slaving away at her work right now. I also have 2 cats.
Oh, yeah.
I love my cats. They're little rascals, but I'm glad I like cats because to all the people out there, I'm not a dog person. Like, I will never raise a dog. I used to actually have a dog, though.
Oh.
When I was 8. So this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
And this was back when, like, and I used to live in Korea back then. And cats just weren't looked upon nicely back then. Like, they're always like, oh, the evil cat, the black cat, the thief cat. Like, cats were not pet friendly back then. And so the only option I had was like hamster or dog. But now that I grew older and I like cats, I'll never have a dog. I don't want to think about walking a dog outside.
Yeah, they're just too high maintenance. Especially if you in an apartment complex or something raised and you have to go up and down the stairs with them or take an elevator down. It's just a lot.
Yeah. Like, I don't even like walking myself. So, like, the fact that I have to walk something else, it's just not going to fly.
Yeah. And that's every day. So.
Oh, yeah. That's every day. Rain. Snow doesn't exist here. So, rain.
Yeah.
Heat.
Yeah.
But cats just do their own thing. You just give them food. I do play with them, like, pretty regularly. My older cat is turning 3. And we call him Usain Bolt because he runs around like crazy. And then the second one is lazy Calico.
Oh.
And she just bumps around.
She's so cute, though.
I know. She's very cute. But she's very skittish. She doesn't like strangers. So most people, when they visit my home, they won't see her. But the first one is just like, hello, I am here.
Yeah.
Welcome to my house. And like rubs all over you. So in that way, I think the first one is definitely like more friendly.
Yeah.
Social cat.
Here are the 2 humans I own.
Pretty much. Pretty much, I would say so. Yeah. So, I guess that's a little thing. We go to the same church now. So, Journey Church. Been there, I guess, ever since I've moved down here. So, since 2011 too. Been a while. I don't have any plans to move yet. Because, I mean, we bought a house recently. So, we don't want to move yet.
Yeah.
And I hate moving.
I know. Yeah.
So
it's such a hassle.
Yeah.
I think something that I learned recently was that there's a saying, it's like, today me, tomorrow you. And basically, it's just about asking people favors. So when I was moving, a lot was going on around that time. Like, a lot of the strong men that I had in mind to help me move in our church community were either really busy with work or had a lot of other activities planned that weekend. So I didn't want to go and like bother other people and ask them to help me move. So I basically packed everything onto the car myself. And that whole process took about 3 hours the night before. But then when I moved in, my 3 other housemates helped me. And that took about half hour. So, yeah, Anyway, it's just a little lesson I learned. Like, sometimes it's good to just, ask for help today. You help me tomorrow, I can help you.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving
But
is a pain.
That's just crazy. Like,
Yeah.
definitely moving with the team is just night and day difference.
Yeah. If I ever move again, I will never move it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to call the movers and tell them to do it and pay them to do it.
Yeah.
One, like, if they move stuff, it's their responsibility if they damage it.
That's true.
If I damage it, I got to pay for it.
Yeah.
So that being
If you
said,
damage yourself, you have to pay for it too.
yeah. So like you damage the house, you pay for the house. You damage your furniture, you probably have to buy new furniture. So don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have any plans to move anyway, so
Yeah.
just don't have to think about it.
It's a good city to live in, for sure. Just like all these new food options. What's that been like for you, attending university in 2011 and then seeing all the new developments in the city the past 12 years?
Yeah, and I mentioned this during our car ride here. Like when I first came to Atlanta 2011, the first week I said, I'm not staying here after I graduate. So my plan was, I'm going to graduate. I'm going to leave this place, never come back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, first, like the first day I came here was one of the hottest and the most humid day I've ever felt in my life.
Oh.
Like, you've been here in the summer and you know how humid it gets.
Yeah.
Jersey is not that humid. So, like, I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I was moving. Like, I was moving into a dorm.
Yeah.
And it was so painful. I still remember pulling up. So there's a dorm called Dobbs in Emory. It's pretty like jank dorm. I remember pulling up, and then the essays and the RA's like, "Hey, welcome to Emory, blah blah blah." And I got out of the car. I was like, "Oh God, I want to leave." And I think up until the day I graduated, I probably still thought the same. And it was like, I don't want to be here.
Dang, all 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, my plan was go somewhere else. I didn't want to go back to Jersey, though. I wanted to explore a little bit. But also at that time, I didn't know what I was going to do after I graduated, since I was pre-med for most of 4 years. And then, like, March of 2015, the year I graduated, I decided not to pursue it. And so I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Bio major?
I was a chem major, actually.
Chem major.
Yeah. People thought I was crazy. Maybe I am. I don't know. But I guess to go back to your question, it is cool to see how much it has grown, despite me not wanting to be here.
Yeah.
I think the boba scene has exploded quite dramatically here. The only thing we could ever get was Sweet Hut, and it's not good, right?
Yeah.
And then Kung Fu Tea came in. It was like a game changer.
I know.
And then other shops kind of came in here, and then I think the one that I go to the most now is T-Top.
Okay.
I think they have like the most consistent, trustworthy boba. So boba scene has exploded. Food scene has exploded. A lot of Chinese food, a lot of Korean food, and then a lot of like small Asian restaurants like Malaysian food.
Yeah.
Mama came in, like Szechuan food came in. But I will say like there's still no Japanese food or good ramen place. So I'm a little upset about that.
Oh, okay. What about, have you heard of the okiboru?
I don't really like it.
Oh,
It might be a hot take for a lot of people, but I really don't like okiboru.
It's like fishy, right? The soup.
Kind of. Like, I really like regular tonkotsu ramen.
Okay.
But then there's this overly creamy and almost like, oh God, I don't know what to say in English. But in Korean, there's like nukihe, meaning like it's too oily. It doesn't sit right.
Okay.
And I'm not a huge fan of sukemen either. So it's not the place that I would go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember if I heard someone else say this or if you said this about yourself, but you're like very particular with where you choose to eat.
Oh, yeah. It probably is me. I'm very picky with food.
Okay.
So, like, I think people who've known me for a long time know the specific food that I will never eat. One of being is mushrooms. I will never eat mushrooms.
Why is that?
I hate mushrooms.
Why?
Like,
mushrooms are yummy.
Oh, no. See, this is where I think I can have a debate. Like
Okay.
I'm a very textured person.
Okay.
So like I'm very keen with textures when like I have to eat it.
Yeah.
So like mushroom has this like weird like chew
A
but
bounce?
slimy. Like it's like it's not a boba bounce. You know, boba has a chew,
Okay.
but mushroom is slippery, little like grimy.
On the outside,
But that's like when I have to bite into it, that's what I feel.
as your teeth.
Yeah,
glide.
like it like chews on it, that's what I feel. It's kind of slimy and chewy. I can't do it.
Huh.
It's not for me.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the taste, the earthiness, I'm not a huge fan either. Yeah. Somebody criticized me recently though. They were like, "But you're okay with truffle?" Like the taste is secondary.
Oh.
But truffle texture is almost hard.
I can't say I've ever eaten a truffle.
It's not a mushroom. It is fungus, but it's not the typical like the oyster mushrooms or like the shiitake mushrooms. It's not like that. So it's okay. I wouldn't choose to eat it, but if it's there, I'll just have it.
Yeah.
But if it's a mushroom, like the one that people typically have in their dishes, I just will not order it. I won't eat it. I'll pick it out if I have to.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did your foodie journey start? Because I'm guessing in high school, like we didn't have enough money to go out that often, right?
Well, my parents cooked a lot, actually. And obviously, being parents, they tell you, you need to eat, you know, your vegetables and your whatever.
Yeah.
So they always try to make me eat mushrooms. I remember one time, my mom made fried rice, and she diced up that mushroom into oblivion, and she like put it in, but I knew it was in there. I just knew, and I was like,
Wow.
"This is not it. I can't. I don't want to eat this. I know when it's in there."
Wow.
And so, I think I was just a picky eater from when I was young,
Okay.
but they just forced me to eat stuff that I
Yeah.
don't want to eat.
Okay.
But I think when I got a little older, I was like, "No, I'm not gonna eat it." And I think at that point, they'll still cook it, but I'll just take it out. So for them, it was like lose-lose. I think more that I got to choose for myself when I started cooking or when I started buying outside.
This was
Probably
in college, or
Yeah, college. Probably I made a lot more food for myself, going out to grocery and then cooking. And then as an upperclassman, I lived in a 4-bedroom dorm, and we didn't really have meal passes back then. So I would just cook stuff. I'm a very much a meat eater.
yeah.
And so I will eat pretty much all type of meat there is, except intestine. I'm not a huge intestine. I think it's the same like texture thing.
Oh, okay.
Like intestine is a little like slimy and gooey and chewy.
Yeah.
So
Does it remind you of something gross?
no, it's just I don't want to eat it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
My mouth doesn't like it.
But you've tried it.
Yeah, I've tried it.
And then when you tried it, the taste was okay?
Taste is fine.
It's like a separate.
Yeah. But it's a
Okay.
texture. It's just like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you associate that with a feeling of disgust when it's too slimy?
Yeah. I just don't enjoy it at all.
Is there an imagery that comes into mind?
It's just nasty.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only word I can really use to describe it. It's just nasty.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, when I cook a lot of meat
Okay.
because I enjoy eating meat.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is just being biased or stereotypical, but I like rice. So I cook a lot of rice, meat. I do like vegetables. I really like onions. I like carrots. People, I think, don't like carrots. I like carrots.
I like carrots.
Yeah.
They have a lot of carbs, though, right? Or a lot of sugar compared to
Yeah, I think,
other.
yeah.
Yeah. That's the only issue. Otherwise, I'd eat it more.
I prefer cooked carrots actually over raw carrots. Except baby carrots. I would not cook baby carrots. Yeah.
I tried it before.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not- not great.
I don't like broccoli or asparagus.
Oh.
And I group them in my mind as vegetables that look like trees.
Wait, any vegetable that looks like a tree?
I really don't like them for whatever reason.
What about cauliflower?
I don't really
Looks
like
a tree.
cauliflower. Yeah, no.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
It's like their taste is bad. The texture is like whatever. Oh, one thing I don't like about broccoli is that little, the ends of broccoli, they have little buddy thingies.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Okay.
That-
That's also a texture thing.
Yeah. Like,
Wow.
I don't like that texture vibe.
This is so interesting. Talking to you about this is interesting because I think usually my mind is it gravitates towards big ideas. So then I don't care about, like, I never put attention on the texture or I don't know, like sensual things.
Oh.
I don't put much attention to that, but this is cool because it's pulling me into a different experience of the natural world that I never, like, it just never seemed important, I guess. But yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. Because even when I cook, I think textures are important.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't like overcooking stuff because they can become mushy,
Okay.
right? And I don't want to eat mush.
Yeah.
And so I do get very intentional about, like, meat, cooking meat. Is it going to be medium? Is it going to be well done? If it's a stir fry, like, you usually typically cook it well done.
Yeah.
Because you're frying with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of Asian stir fries, you don't cook them halfway because the juice, you don't want the juices to be everywhere when you're done cooking. But if it's a steak, you have to eat it minimum medium. You can't go beyond medium with steaks. I'm sorry. There are people who probably are like, and I know people who eat it well done. My in-laws, they eat their steak well done.
Does it depend on the cut for you?
No.
Any cut?
Any cut, the most you can cook is a medium.
Okay.
But I will say, if it has more fat, you want to cook it a little longer so you can render the fat a little more. If it's like a fillet, then you want to go a little rarer. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the more you cook like fibrous meat, it gets tougher.
Yeah.
And you don't want it to be tough. But if you have a lot of lipids and fat in between, then those fat become melted and they make the texture and the flavor better. But you don't want to cook it all the way through because it will make your meat part really tough.
Yeah.
So it's a good balance, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I have had steaks where I bite into it and it's just like the muscle fibers don't really break down. It's almost like it's not cooked enough. So when I chew on it, I picture like this tube, which is, the muscle fiber. Yeah. And when I chew on it, it just flattens it, but it doesn't like break it down. So I'm just left chewing this mass of fibers that are just intertwined, and it gets kind of, it just, you wouldn't swallow it because it's too big and it's just this mass. So then in those times, I think of how I can improve that dish, and I just think maybe if I cook that part down more, it'll get a little bit tougher, but at least when you bite it, it breaks into multiple pieces.
Yeah.
But what's your thought on that?
One, I think the meat quality has to be really good. Because let's say you just go to Publix or Kroger and just buy a random meat on the shelf. It could be a little older. Okay. And so they've been sitting and it's tough. Or they're just whatever meat that, they just get. I will say Costco has pretty good, affordable grade meat. So like, let's say a steak, right? If like the meat is going to be a little tough, even if you cook it down a little bit, a lot of people suggest just like sous videing. It takes a lot of effort and like time and whatever. It does help tenderize it by a little bit, just because you're cooking it at a consistent temperature and you're getting the internal and the external of the meat the same. And then all you're doing is searing. So you're effectively cooking it to the level of what you want. And then you're just searing the outside so you get the nice crust. Yeah. That's how I typically cook my steak at home. It's like I sous vide it first, whether it be a fillet or like York strip or what do you call it?
Ribeye?
Yeah, ribeye. Oh my God, I'm losing it.
I'm glad I could guess that.
Yeah. So like all of that I will sous vide first, and then I'll just sear it on a cast iron.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that for me works the best.
Have you heard of the carbon iron?
Carbon fiber like pans?
Yeah.
I know people that use it.
Do you own any of that?
I don't own one.
Okay.
I know that it's supposed to be, or theoretically it's better than cast iron.
Really?
That's what I've heard.
Oh. Why? Do you know why?
I think both, you can use it for a long time.
Oh, okay.
And so like they're very much not like a regular frying pan where you use it for a couple of years, it gets damaged and you toss it. Both of them you need to season the pans, and then they hold on to their quality a very long time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like I guess like woks, right? Like you don't use it for a couple of years and you toss it away. Like you use that same wok with oil and like you rinse and repeat, right?
Oh.
It's the same idea with like these cast irons or the carbon like fiber carbon steel.
Yeah. And also, I heard those cheap nonstick kind of pans, when the nonstick layer flakes off, that's like a carcinogen.
Yep. Yep.
So, you know, raises your cancer risk.
Yeah. I mean, they're cheap.
Yeah.
I use one at home, like
Yeah.
Tefal. Like but I will say I will never use metal on them.
Oh.
Yeah, I just use wooden or those flappy things. What do you call them? Spatulas with like it's not
The plastic?
kind of, yeah. Like
Okay.
I'll use them, but
Yeah.
for my cast iron, I'm not afraid to use tongs or like scrape stuff.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're designed to last.
How often do you cook with a cast iron through the week?
I don't use a cast iron that often, just because it smokes a lot.
Oh.
So I only use it when I like cook steak.
Yeah.
Other times I use a cast iron is when I like make mac and cheese or like bake something,
Oh.
because like it's a good heat absorber, so
Yeah.
like it retains heat really well. You'll always get a nice like sear on the bottom just because the heat is evenly distributed.
Yeah.
So I think that part I like about cast irons. I just use a regular pan or a wok. Yeah, on a normal basis at least.
Yeah.
They're easy to clean.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, it sounds like the restaurants are a huge reason why you decided to stay in Atlanta.
I mean, okay, I guess restaurant is not the main reason.
Okay.
I like how they've expanded over the years.
Yeah.
And I have choices to eat.
Yeah.
I think the part of it is like pricing is also a big deal.
Okay.
And then the other reason is like I didn't know what I was doing in my life.
Oh.
And then I started dating Esther like in March after we graduated.
Okay.
So in 2016. And then neither of us, or she was working like as a consultant for a while. And I didn't really have any plans to move out. So I guess it just happened that I was here. And then time passed and then we got married.
Wow.
So, I mean, I think my thoughts of wanting to move have slowly disappeared over the years. Maybe also because I got really comfortable here.
Yeah.
And so I don't need to move.
Moving sucks.
Yeah.
A lot of diverse
Yeah.
cuisines. You have community here.
Yeah.
You've set your roots.
Yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it, actually, because, like, at first, none of that was here.
Yeah.
But then as time went by, like, things, I guess, got into place.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm pretty comfortable here, I don't see a reason to move, which is fine, you know. I don't have to move if I don't need to move.
Yeah.
So I'll be here at least for the time being if I can. I just really wish a good ramen place came in. Like, that's my one wish.
Yeah. Jinya? No good?
I used to like it.
Okay.
Or are you talking about Jinya Ramen Bar?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like Jinya.
Oh, what's the other one?
Ginya Izakaya. It's on like west side of town.
Okay.
I haven't been there in a while. I thought they used to have a pretty good, decent ramen. But I feel like the last time I went, which was a while ago, it was whatever. And it got expensive.
Oh.
So, and I really don't like Jinya. I know a lot of people do.
Yeah, I heard Jinya was one of the better options around town.
I think it's too like Americanized for me.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you guys been to Japan?
No.
Okay.
But like there's a lot of places like you can have it in New York or Cali.
Okay.
Like they have really good ramen.
What are some places you'd recommend?
I forget their names. But Hironori I think is in LA.
Okay.
I thought that was really good. And then Ippudo ramen, I think that's in New York.
Oh yeah.
That one's pretty good.
Ippudo and Ichiran, right?
Oh
Those
yeah,
are the
yeah.
top two.
I think so. I haven't been to Ichiran, I think.
I think that's the only one I've been to.
Okay.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Like the bite of the noodle is legendary.
And like the broth is so good.
Yeah.
Oh, and also because I'm a big meat eater, I like look at how well chashu looks.
Okay.
And sometimes the chashu is just not it. Like here.
Oh.
They just look like deep fried pork belly. I'm like,
yeah.
no, that's not what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, all in all, I've grown to like Atlanta. I feel like I haven't explored as much as I should. But, I mean, I have all the time to do it, I guess.
Yeah, that could be a goal for the next year. Yeah.
You've been here.
Yeah.
Like, a little over a year now.
Yeah.
Has it almost 2 years?
Just over a year. Little over a year.
What has your experience been?
I love it.
Okay.
But I came from Mississippi last year. So, yeah, comparatively, I mean, I think that just living in Mississippi and just not having the options, it just comparatively makes everything seem so much better. And like, we were both in New Jersey. So New Jersey had a lot of Asian food, a decent amount of options. And it was close to Philly, close to New York City. But I think for me, even though there were so many options in New Jersey, I wasn't able to attend to what I was experiencing. Like I knew I was very lucky getting to eat at different places, but somehow I just wasn't taking in that experience the way that it didn't feel like it was impactful to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know? But like listening to you talk about food, I can almost like empathize with how impactful a good meal is to you, which is really cool. But yeah, for me, going to Mississippi and basically, for example, a pho restaurant, there is only 2 in town, and they're located in opposite ends of town, maybe like half-hour drive in between. So what that did was there's so little competition that they just upped their prices, and it was like the worst pho that I've ever had. So the meat was, like you said, just really tough, like bad cuts of steak, no fat in it. Or it wasn't even steak, it was just like beef, you know? Yeah. And it was like tough. It was like eating a piece of cardboard almost, you know? So dry. I think just going from that to what we have here, even if the quality of food here wasn't as good as Jersey, I would really appreciate it just because I'm able to attend a lot more.
Yeah.
But also objectively, there's just more options here than like any other place I've lived in personally. So
that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, so my girlfriend Sylvia, she is a pretty big foodie, and she forces me to go out and experience things. So,
are you not a foodie?
I enjoy good food, but I'm also like I was telling you earlier, I think just my mind is more focused on like, I don't know why, but I'm very focused on just productivity. And I don't know if I'm objectively even that productive, but I think that so much of my mind goes towards that a lot of the fun stuff of life along the way, I've just kind of like overlooked it. So like when I was a kid, I guess maybe watching like Studio Ghibli films or something, like seeing really nice food in anime, or it had to be anime because the most delicious looking things I remember as a kid, it was always cartoon. It was like the bugs from Lion King. They look like really good, like gummy snacks almost. Studio Ghibli, and then also like Mulan. For whatever reason, there was this scene of like little dragon, I think, feeding her like this porridge, and that looks really good to me. But I think those scenes, like seeing those scenes as a kid, I wanted to grow up and enjoy food in the way that it was depicted in those films. Yeah. But somehow, I don't know. I guess as I grew up, it just mattered a little bit less to me. And so nowadays, I can eat like the same meal Monday to Friday, just like a meal prep, like bodybuilder style. Though I have to say my standards have improved. Like in college, I would bake the chicken breast. It was healthy, but baked, and it was like really dry, and I was miserable. Now at least I'll like sous vide the chicken breast, but it's just like chicken breast and then a vegetable cooked in bulk, and then rice, and I'll just eat that Monday to Friday.
Wow.
And I don't know. I don't know if it's because I have simple taste, but it's fine for me. Like I still appreciate it, but I don't think as deeply into. So I'm aware of the texture. Like I'm aware that sous vide chicken breast is way better than baked, but I'm not really thinking about the texture, let's say, of the ginger I use. Like I'll use ginger powder, and there's some flavor of ginger there. But if I really thought about it, like would I want a sliced fresh, strips of ginger? Probably.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess I didn't put that much attention there that it was really a problem.
Yeah.
It was just a way for me to like very quickly get to like think about big ideas or like think about productivity, things that I can do in that sense. So
you're living a too busy life then.
yeah, I think talking to you, I'm realizing like there are more fun things outside of work that I can be doing. But I mean, on the weekends we often go out though.
Yeah,
so it's always a good, like I'm very open to exploring on the weekends and such. But yeah, in reflection, I think that there's definitely more fun things that can be done along the way.
I was gonna say, like, it's impressive that you can eat the same food like day after day. Because I'm the type of person who absolutely will not, even if it's inconvenient. Like I hate eating the same food over and over again.
Yeah,
and even more,
yeah.
like I don't want to be eating just chicken breast and vegetable day after day.
Yeah,
like I haven't done that since high school.
Wow.
Yeah, like I cannot do that anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's not for me.
Different goals, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was a bodybuilder, maybe I'm like forced to. But
I think it's also just like for me, it's definitely just a time saver. Like you said, the convenience factor of it. So yeah. But I mean, I'm also glad that I'm able to like still be happy eating the same thing.
Yeah. I guess that's what matters, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're satisfied, like
Yeah.
who's to tell you like you can't do that?
Right.
I just personally, I will hate myself eating that chicken breast and be like, Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah. I think it's just been so interesting, like having this conversation and realizing that it's almost like the way that you perceive the world is pretty different than me. Like you're able to be in the moment a lot more. And I think like one of the questions I was going to ask you was, remember we were talking about the opioid epidemic a little while ago, and you said that you were like very sad about that. When I heard that, this is going to sound kind of bad, but like I almost like can't empathize with that kind of thing. And it's crazy because like one of the guys from my high school passed away from like a fentanyl overdose. But I guess he was just so removed from, like he was just so far from like my friend group, and also like have you heard of when the idea of empathy where to us and our families and our immediate network, if something bad happens, it hits us so hard, but then when we hear of an earthquake in a foreign country, it's just like a number to us. Like it's very hard to feel that impact, even though it's so much bigger. I think that's almost like a similar concept with drug overdose to me, because it feels so removed from my immediate network. But I'm not even sure now that I'm reflecting, I'm not even sure if it's about being removed or not, or if it's just because my life is too busy. Like similar to not being able to enjoy a meal. Like if there's still levels to attending to what I'm experiencing in reality that I have yet to like feel more deeply. I don't know.
I mean, maybe just to expand why I feel sad is because I've actually been at a like summer missions in Kensington, so I've seen people like doing drugs in the corner. I've seen that picture in real life.
Okay.
And it is so sad. Like they're not humans at that point. I mean, like they are humans, but like they're not thinking straight. They don't comprehend anything.
Yeah.
and like the police aren't doing anything because they can't. I think what makes me more sad is like these people have a decision that they can make to be on drugs or not, right? Like everybody has a decision. What makes me sad is like that's their resort to, and I don't know if that's enjoyable or not, but that's a decision that they made for themselves, and that's a consequence that they have to live with. And like some people, when they like have to get hospitalized for it, like they're not the same person anymore after that point. And like it just saddens to see like how a person can deteriorate so fast just because of one misuse. And when they're not on the drug, like they might be like, sure, yeah, you might be able to have like a small conversation, but it's like nothing really sticks to them. And I think the shock factor for me is like, and I can't be 100% positive if it was really that, or it was just the person was like really high on drugs, but like this person seemed like they were demonically possessed. Like they were like shouting something, like I don't know what the language was, but they were like shouting, and you can clearly see like damages to her body. But obviously for protection we couldn't like be near this person, but like around her was like people on doing drugs on like her left side, like people like sprawled on the ground, bunch of needles around her. And like to me, I'm like, wow, like who's gonna save these people? And I think the fact that like, and I will say like similarly when I hear like earthquake, it does like hit me a little bit, but it's not like, oh, like super sad. Like it's sad, but not super sad. But I think people that I've seen because of like I've seen it in real life, I think it just hits different. I saw the impact of what it actually did to them, and like they look painful. Like their face doesn't look like they're having fun.
Yeah,
you know, their face looks like they're in pain, but they can't get out of it. And I mean, like, I didn't really plan on like sharing gospel here, but like that's where I thought of, right? Like, man, like how sad it is that these people like they didn't know and don't know who Jesus is, and the only way to like relieve them from their maybe life stress or like life circumstance is to completely remove themselves out of the current world through means of drugs. And I think that's really hard. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That, I think that paints a better picture for, that's pretty amazing too. I wanted to ask you, and at first I was going to ask you over text, but I figured there was more to it that was just too hard to convey over text. And I mean, it's a very emotional experience that truly you can only share that with someone like almost face to face, like to really understand. Wow.
I think that was the closest I've ever been to a city full of just overdose. Like I've been to over the Rhine, Ohio, where we have a AMI church. Yeah. And even there, like their crime rate is really high and their drug rate is really high too. But like Kensington is like next level. Like, yeah, it's crazy. And so when I went to OTR, I was like, oh, this is like not that bad. It's bad. It's bad. Yeah. But it wasn't like as bad as what I imagined it to be because I had a previous experience of another city. And like there are people who are doing missions there. Yeah. And I don't know if you were there last Friday at Missions Friday, but Chris Pender came, visited from OTR.
Yeah.
And I think his testimony is really touching, because those people, like missionaries in those cities, are there long term, like long game, right? Like it's not like you're there for 1 year and someone like hurrah, like they get saved. Like he's been there for many years, and it's like finally like one guy comes into the church. Like it takes so long. Yeah. And most of the time they're not gonna make it. The people on the streets, like most of the time they'll reject whatever like story, gospel that they're being preached to. They're going to reject it. They're going to go on their like whatever lives. And then that's the end of what they call life. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and you can't really expect them to find like a solution by depending on government policy, or I mean, who else can take care of these people?
Yeah.
There isn't really anything.
Yeah. And it's like also sad because it's dangerous, right? Like,
yeah,
the people who want to reach out to them are putting themselves in danger. And so like you can't expect people to take care of them because you're asking people to be in danger. But at the same time, we do need people to help them. So I feel like there's a slight double standard in that you yourself can go and help, but it's dangerous. So it's hard. It's certainly hard to even foundationally like help them with life and like food and like even remediation or whatever. Like that alone itself is hard. And trying to get through them in conversation is like another thing, right? And like I know there's miracles do happen, and I do believe like God can be like boom, like wake people up like that. But I think the story is like people do need to see what's going on with how depraved people are.
Would you say you've always had like a heart for people who are suffering like this, or was it something you kind of cultivated through more experiences in the church?
I think putting it more generally, I think I try to empathize with people, and that could mean a lot of different things. I will say I think I do have a heart to serve and minister and help people who are struggling in whatever way. I may not always like empathize every single moment in their life because I can't. Like
physically,
it's just not how we're wired to be. Like I can't feel exactly what you're feeling, you know, like I can guess, but that's different. But I will say like my heart goes out to people who are struggling, and that's not to say like I will help them in finances or counseling or whatever, because I'm not licensed by any means to do any of that. But I think just in general, like my heart goes out for people who are having a hard time. Yeah, especially if they're going through depression or things that are emotionally difficult. I do feel for them, because I feel like a lot of the times those emotions are misunderstood and misled. And I just wonder, do people really understand what they need and how to help? Which I think kind of, I don't have all the tools to help people, you know, like that's,
right.
I don't.
Yeah.
But if I can be a point of like listening, sure, that's what I can do.
A lot of times when people have the heart to care for others who are in very low points of their lives, it's usually you've gone through some sort of obstacle or challenge yourself that almost humbles you in a way and allows you to feel maybe a little bit more empathy for others. Have you personally experienced something like that?
Yeah, I guess like just to give an example, I went through a pretty rough depressive time, And I won't call it a medically diagnosed depression because, one, I was always afraid of asking to go to the doctor.
No.
So I don't know, like
That might be an Asian
yeah, that's probably an Asian thing.
upbringing thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
But after college, around 2017-ish to like 2009, like there was a good period of time when I was just like the worst time, I think. Like nothing was going like my way. Like I just felt like I felt very useless in a lot of different ways. And so I've had like depressive thoughts like before high school, suicidal thoughts. Those things were pretty common, honestly, before college. Maybe it also didn't help like some of the people that I hung out with were like that too.
oh.
But I think once I understood, like, it's not easy to help someone who is feeling depressed. Like, there's not a lot that you can do because, one, I also realized it's like very much a battle, like self-battle. So, and I have my thoughts about medication and whatnot, but like, it's a self-battle. Most people can do, I think, is really like listen and not try to sympathize or empathize of what they're actually feeling, because personally, and this might be different for everybody, but personally it never helped when someone was like, oh, you should do XYZ and it'll help make you feel better. That's total crap. Like, it never helps. Like, it makes it worse because that just means that someone's trying to solve your problems and that's not it, you know. And so like and that's where I come with, like, if I do see someone struggling in like depressive thoughts or suicidal thoughts, like, I can't tell them to do XYZ because that's the same thing that I hated when someone was like, you should do XYZ.
Yeah.
Like, I might ask a few questions of how they're feeling, but usually the answer is like, I feel depressed. You know, like, it's hard to expand on that. Like, you feel depressed. And as a person who is feeling that way, you would expect someone to, like, just leave it at that. And so I think there's a lot to be said in terms of that. I guess, like, another, like, small thing is, like, I'm not very close with my family. We just have a lot of, like, personal history. And so, like, people who are not very close to their family, like, I can relate.
Okay.
I don't really talk to my dad all that much. Like, we don't call very often. Like, my parents, we don't call very often. They're usually the ones who are sending messages.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think the last time, like, we've had a conversation over the phone was, like, months ago. And that's pretty normal for me, and I don't actually feel anything bad about it. And maybe that's why, like, I can understand if people just don't have a good relationship with their family. But I will tell them, you should. They shouldn't do what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think that's right. Like, not just right in terms of, like, relationship-wise, but, like, I think biblically it's not the right thing to do. I just have a hard time getting over my own personal, like, difficulty of trying to reshape and rebuild the relationship with my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, family is very hard. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So call your mom, call your dad if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were in the depressive phase, do you ever remember an interaction, something that someone said that instead of advice, it was more of support, and it did help you, it did reach you?
The funny thing is, the moment that I remember the most, that I felt like the most helpful moment, was when someone admitted they don't understand what I'm going through. And I was like, yes, you're right, you don't, but thank you for being here. Like, that moment itself I think was the moment that I was like, they actually understand that they don't understand. I think that's, to me, more powerful than all of the other things that they have said, because they were literally just there, just to be there.
Yeah.
You know, like they don't need to understand. You don't need to try to understand people when they're going through like everything. But I think that was the moment I was like, yes, like, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that start something like was that the start of a connection when you were able to be helped more, you think? Or it was only that one moment when they admitted to not understanding that there was the connection and support?
Well, okay. Well, that this person we're talking about is Esther.
Oh.
And we were dating back then.
Oh, okay.
That was actually the moment when I felt confident that I wanted to marry her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've told her this before.
Yeah.
That moment was the moment I was like, this is the person that will marry.
Wow.
Yeah. It's because I think the moments and the season that I was feeling really depressed, like she saw me through that the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the moment, she was not very helpful because she just didn't know like how to help. But when she admitted that she didn't know and she didn't understand, I was like, that's it. Yeah. And so it's weird to say, but I really think that was the moment I was sure that this is the person that I want to live the rest of my life with. Yeah. She probably still doesn't understand why, but to me, it's a surefire moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a very intimate moment to share,
Yeah.
for sure. Like, yeah, that I can't really think of anything more grounding than someone basically like foregoing every other thought that they could be having just to like in mind and body just be there with you.
Yeah.
And still not know what you're going through, but willing to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like all the noise, like everything else just fades away, and all that there is just you two, right? Like, yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I know, like, it probably was very difficult for her to be near me in this moment, like in those seasons. But I appreciate, like, she still took a lot of time to strike up conversations, like pray for me when I'm not there. And I appreciate that about her. When I look back, she also held on too. She could have easily been like, I don't want to deal with this, right?
Yeah.
And so all of that combined, I appreciate the things that she did, she said, when she was with me or when I wasn't there. So
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a very non-transactional way of love.
yeah.
I'm actually kind of at a loss of what to say. I guess one thing that I'm thinking of right now is kind of like goofy, but have you ever seen those old school animes like Yu Yu Hakusho or stuff like that, where there's like the anime opening and the guy is out battling demons, physical demons, and then you just see the girl love interest just like praying, like praying for them, something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like Inuyasha or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the artists or the story creators really locked in on this idea of, like a very non-transactional form of love. Because when, let's say, like you're dating and you're going through either depression is like internal. So maybe there's like an external threat, someone trying to undermine you at work or something. Your love interest can't be there physically to help you deal with that problem. And probably never will be able to, and neither can any of your friends or your family. It's a very isolating environment to be dealing with the problem, but if someone is willing to think of you and pray for you, just really pull for you in any possible way, you aren't there with them when they're, spending all this effort on you. But it's so beautiful because it is non-transactional
Yeah.
and goes so counter to how we're used to thinking of the value exchange.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think those were the anime openings that really felt more emotional, you know, back then. I don't really see that concept as much anymore in like modern stories.
And like it doesn't have to be in a like these type of things don't have to just be limited to like romantic relationships, you know, like it could happen in friendships, it could happen in like church communities too. And I think that's where community is so important, where like there are people who are caring for you and rooting for you and doing things for you that you don't even realize, you know. And I think that's important to realize. And maybe it does happen outside of like a Christian context too, that people like, let's say, the only thing I can really think of is like buy food for you when like you're like too tired to cook or like leave your house.
Yeah,
that's nice gestures and they do it out of good heart.
Yeah.
I do think there is a deeper level when someone takes their time to like pray for you, because they're thinking of you like in those moments. And I think that's really impactful in many ways, because one, you don't know that they're doing it. It's like done in very secret. Unless they're flaunting it out there, then I'll be like, don't tell me. You know, but I think a part of it is like people who do it in secret, I think really mean the best for you. Because you'll never know. You know, you'll never know what this person really thought and cared for you. Then maybe later they might share like, oh, like I really prayed for you after you've like gotten better, or like someone's gotten better. Then it's like, oh, like this person cared for me. And I think that's different, you know, like it's different that someone is willing to go out of their way to like spend their time like caring for you behind the scenes. And praying is like, it's unique. Yeah.
Do you think that can lead to resentment sometimes if someone is caring for you or sacrificing for you and they don't tell you, and like that lack of communicating the care?
Who's being like resentful?
The person who is like caring in secret.
Well, I guess it would be wrong to be resentful if you don't tell. Like, if it's done in secret, then it's in secret, right? Like, how can you be resentful for the person that you're praying for if they have no idea what's going on?
Right. Yeah.
And I do what I kind of see like what you're asking though. I think that's just human nature though. You know, like there's some level of maybe I wish they knew. And then, like, that happens in communication and friendships and like relationships too. It's like you do things without being seen, but you're like, you have this hope that, oh, maybe they would notice, maybe they would see what I'm doing.
Yeah, when you see it in a dating show, like someone, I don't know, I can't think of a good example right now, but you know, someone is like putting in a lot of effort for the love interest, and you hope they notice. Like, notice me, senpai. Right? But it's like from a logical standpoint, it's so much like entropy, like wasted, you know, a lot of effort is expended, but then there's no like yield in a sense. But then it almost makes the gestures seem tainted or inauthentic if you do something like, I went and bought you oranges and I know you like oranges. Or like I bought you a bunch of carrots and not mushrooms, and I'm communicating that to you, saying please appreciate it. Like it almost taints the effort in a sense, because I'm wanting you to, it's transactional, right? Like I'm wanting you to appreciate me, and it's almost like I'm wanting to manipulate you by communicating this. But then if you don't, I could never expect you to appreciate me if I don't communicate it.
But I also think like it goes the other way around. Let's say the person looks back and remembers that moment. Maybe there comes a point where they do appreciate and they like give you an act of gratitude. And if that happens, like that's all good and it's all cool. I do think there's some responsibility on the receiver to at least show gratitude. Like it's not so that the person who is giving can be justified, I think as a human being, we should be thankful. You know,
Yeah.
and it's not to make the giver feel better, because it's not. It's you build relationships because you are serving without wanting something back, but at the same time you give gratitude for what you have received. And without that, then, and if the receiver doesn't show gratitude to anybody, sorry to say, like, who's going to be their friend next time?
Yeah.
So I think there is just some level responsibility on the receiver to at least show a form of gratitude if they've received something.
What if the recipient is just not very sharp about the efforts that were spent on them?
So they just are totally oblivious.
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen.
Have you met people like that?
Yes, I
Okay.
have met people like that.
Okay.
I think in that case, it's not, the hope shouldn't be that if you do tell them what you've done, you can't be resentful that they say thank you afterwards. Because there are people who are like totally oblivious and they say thank you after the fact that they've learned that someone's done something nice. And then the giver's like, you're just thankful because I told you what I did. You know, you can't be like that either, because they're just oblivious people.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of funny you bring it up, because oblivious people exist.
Yeah. I think I'm one of them. That's why I mentioned it.
And I think it's a two-way street too in that case. Like, you do need to try to see what's going on around you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things happen without you noticing it. Like,
Definitely,
a lot of the
yeah.
times. But I think it's important to at least try to see like abnormal things that are happening.
Yeah.
Because patterns of life and they're like pretty standard.
Yeah.
If there's something that's a little bit different, then it might be helpful to be like, oh, something's different, so let me see why it's different.
Right.
But at the same time, like, the friends that around you should know to tell you, so that what they're doing, but they also can have an open dialogue with you, since you've already said you might be one of those like oblivious person.
Yeah.
I didn't think you were, because you like remember things when people tell you. I feel like
when they
oblivious
tell
people,
me, but not when they don't tell me.
so like I think, but there's like level of that too. Like,
yeah.
you remember things well,
When they're explicit.
but there's people who don't, like,
Yeah.
and so that's like way extreme.
Yeah.
But like, I think the fact that you know that about yourself, if there are people around you that, and this is just me, it's like a grain of salt. It's like, if there are people close to you that you want people to know who you truly are, then it might be helpful to say like, hey, I may not notice things when you do it for me. Just tell me. Then they might feel more inclined to tell you, rather than being like, oh, I don't want to tell them because it might seem like I want something from David, like.
Wow.
But if they know that you just don't notice things very well without explicitly telling you, then it opens a door for them to be a little bit more open about just sharing, and they don't have to feel guilty about, oh, like, I'm not telling David to receive something in return. So I think it's just like two-way street of communication, of you exposing and telling others who you are.
Yeah.
And then others having more of an assurance that, oh, David is not, I can tell David safely because he will know that I'm not expecting like XYZ back. So I think that's just learning communication. Yeah.
Wow.
Part of learning communication, I would say.
It's such a nuance of communication that I haven't thought of before. In that sense, I guess. Like, it's almost like one of those like small details, like advanced small details of communication that just, I don't know. I've never talked about this before, but I'm wondering now how often people have tried to do something for me, and I've just completely like been oblivious.
This might be a personal question, but like, has Sylvia ever pointed things out to you like that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Like,
oh, definitely.
has she said, you don't know what you haven't noticed what I'm doing?
I don't know if she said it like that, but she's definitely mentioned things that she's done that I'll be driving hours later, and then suddenly I'll realize it, but it's not like instantaneous. Like when she does something, I realize all the little pieces that went into that, you know.
And I'll just preface it this way too. Like, even if you tell people they should tell you what they've done, it's not natural for someone to explicitly share everything.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times they probably won't tell you. But I will also say, I think it'll be helpful to have that kind of conversation with Sylvia too. Just be like, hey, I probably won't notice a lot of things. Or even much later. Mm-hmm. And also her giving you time to like see what's happening. But also, you can also initiate the conversation and be like, hey, like, or the things that I missed that you did, that I can see what happened.
Yeah.
So, because it's me, I guess personally, if I was a person who is serving and giving and nobody notices, I don't want to be the person to be like, hey, I did this. You know, that sounds a little selfish.
Yeah.
And so it does help if like the person asks, and I wouldn't ask everybody in the world, but like Sylvia's close to you, so you can ask her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the main difference, really.
What's your stance on like self-advocating then? Because in a career setting, when you do stuff, you do want to be acknowledged.
Yep.
So do you kind of like switch mindsets when it comes to being recognized for your actions in a career setting?
Part of it, yes, but not in a I'm the greatest, look at me type of thing. I do want to succeed in career, and I'll put myself out there and like highlight the things that I've done, but those are facts. I'm not the type of person, I don't like to fluff things up. So if I did it, I'll say I did it. I won't add like I did it because I thought it was a great deal or it was whatever fancy result or whatever. It's just I did it. I guess that question it's hard to answer. Self-advocate. I will say self-confidence is important. I don't know how much that plays into self-advocacy. You should advocate for yourself, but not to be like what is the word I'm thinking of? Like proud. Pride.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also think, just from personal experience, if we don't self-advocate, sometimes a lot of our efforts can be unseen. And then from a management point of view, they can say, what have you been up to all this time? You know?
Yeah.
And I've had numerous of those conversations where now I'm at a point where the lesson I learned is I need to almost have a receipt for what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Like, these past 4 hours have not been wasted.
Yeah.
Though it might seem like they were if you judge me on activity B when I've been doing activity A, which you're not even recognizing. I guess for me, I just compartmentalize two different settings. Like, one is personal life, and those relationships, you don't need to be making actions as explicit. And then there's career life, where you need to self-advocate in the sense that you want to make sure that people are acknowledging your efforts.
I do think it's different. Like, workplace is a little different.
Yeah.
The best example or analogy I can give is like, let's say you have a list of your accomplishments. One would be having them as more your keepsakes that when someone asks, you can show it to them, versus like wearing it outside.
Yeah.
Because that, to me, those two are very different things. And if someone asks me, what have I accomplished? I can be like, I've done this past year. Like, this is what I've done. Like, I can like list out everything. But I wouldn't necessarily wear it and share, this is me.
Yeah.
Because I don't want that also to be my identity.
Right, exactly. It leaves a bad taste on other people's impression of you if you do things to wear as badges. It's an interesting line to navigate, because do you think if you worked really hard but in silence, as many Asian men think is cool or right even, do you think that there will come a point when your manager will have a meeting with you and they might even come come at you in the wrong angle. They might say, I expected you to do activity C, and what have you been up to? And then that's the point when you finally reveal what you've been doing. And then there's that whole conversation of, oh, okay, that's what you were up to. That's okay.
I think that's just poor management.
Oh.
Because a manager should be proactive on knowing and understanding what their reports are doing.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be every day, but at least on a regular cadence to check upon you. Like, hey, are things going well? Here are the tasks that were given 2 weeks ago. How far have you accomplished? Without checkpoints, I think you're bound to have those conversations that are dramatic.
Yeah.
And that's not fair for anybody.
Right.
Because I think there will be a point where I have the wrong impression, and then it takes more effort to like flip that impression. And so I personally think that's just a poor management. Like a good manager, I would say, should be very active in how things are going, because it affects their team too. Like, it affects their job.
Right.
And if your team doesn't do their job, it looks bad on you too. So I just think you do your job as a manager to manage, not micromanage, but see what your team is doing and what's up to.
Yeah.
So that they're also held accountable to the position that they're in.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So then I'm just focusing on, there's you and there's your manager, and each side has things that they can do to communicate successfully, right? So if let's say your manager is just spread too thin, just has too many responsibilities and doesn't have even the attention span to be managing you, but they're still in that role. And technically, it's still their responsibility. There's more important things for them to do, and time is limited, attention is limited. In that situation, the appropriate thing for you to do is to communicate like everything that you've been doing to the manager, right? Yeah. Like proactively. Because you have to, that's when you need to have the awareness that they're spread too thin, and so you have to be keeping track of this kind of stuff. Yeah, I would just, like, if it comes to that point, like, poor manager. But I also... Poor manager of the poor manager, giving the manager too much and spreading them too thin. Because that's reality. Like, it is reality. Things are messy. And you have to, I guess, you have to be on your feet, thinking and adapting in real time to I would say, like, if it comes to that point, just even as, like, a self-defense, you do have to kind of show what you're doing. Yeah. Just because the manager probably just doesn't have the headspace to ask you. Right. But you also don't want them to think that you're not doing your job. And it's kind of interesting you say Asian men try to not share. I think there is a level of that for sure. And part of it is Asian culture. You don't really like show and tell. Yeah. And so, and especially men, I feel like just don't share anything. And so that could be a part of it too. Yeah. I'm personally of the thought that that's kind of outdated. Me too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't think that's stupid. I mean, like, if you have something to say, say it. Yeah. Even though there is something so special about not communicating the sacrifice, but that's like it's kind of like a dramatic scenario too. Yeah. Like, not every interaction needs to be that way. Yeah. But we're not mind readers, you know? Yeah. I ain't gonna know what you're thinking if you don't say anything. I think having a face-to-face conversation, or Zoom to Zoom, or however people communicate, voice to voice, it's important because that communicates both the message across, but also like the emotion and the feelings behind it. Yeah. Because I have often misunderstood people's emails and their texts. But then when we actually talk, it's not the way that it came off. Right. And so I was like, okay, I take the text on the screen for face value.
And if we need to expand on it, then I'll be like, let's just jump on a call and just talk through it. So,
yeah. All right. Well, I think we're coming up closing time.
is there anything, I think you mentioned, but is there something specific you wanted to eat?
Oh, well, have you been to the Po' Boy shop
Wait.
before?
Where is that?
It's pretty close to here. It's on, I think it's like North Decatur.
Is that Po' Boy?
Yeah, the Po' Boy shop, basement, and bar. They have really good cheap beer, and the Po' Boys are pretty good too.
No.
Are you a fan?
I've never been, but I would be down.
Have you had Po' Boy before? Like the sandwich?
I think so.
Okay.
So, like Louisiana E, or is it Florida E? Is it some southern thing,
Yeah.
or is it not? I might be wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely southern.
Yeah, we can go there.
Okay.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. New Orleans, Louisiana.
Nice. All right.
I am hungry though.
Yeah. Should we close the recording in any artful way?
Oh, you're asking the wrong person. Any artful way? No. Well, thanks for having me on your David show. I don't know if you have a name for it.
It's literally just David Dang podcast right
Okay.
now. But yeah, it's been a fun
Nice.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are so fun. Like I always learn something new when I talk to someone new. And how about a piece of advice that you'd give to anyone who might be listening?
Oh.
Anything that you've learned lately that's been valuable to you?
Make every moment worth it.
What does that look like for you? An example.
I think the picture that I see is like, you don't know when the last time you'll see a person, so just make that moment worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. All right. That's a great piece of advice to close the segment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. And we're going to be signing off.
All right. Thank you. See you guys later.
Bye.